Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to have Greg Stevens, the founder of Alignment Resources. This is a firm specializing in leadership development, communication training, and executive coaching. With over 25 years of experience, Greg has worked with Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and small businesses, helping them navigate complex organizational challenges and build cohesive, high-performing teams. Greg, welcome to Founders Future.
Ammar, thank you for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it.
I am super excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So,
Okay.
can you take us back, take the listeners on a little bit of a journey? Before you started Alignment Resources, what were you doing at that time? And what was the motivation behind starting your company?
Yeah, I was on my own at 17 and I ended up putting myself through college at Baylor University.
Wow.
And then I got out and I worked in sales for a couple different places. And then I got the coveted job of pharmaceutical sales. And my first sales job, though, I have to say, was I sold cemetery property door to door in Houston, Texas. And I paid for an entire year at Baylor in about 8 weeks. So I learned to sell really early on, didn't know what else I was going to do. Then I got a coveted pharmaceutical sales job, which moved me to Austin, Texas. And I did that for years, but for about 13 years. I found out about 6 months in, the company would pay for me to take any type of training I wanted,
Yeah.
traditional, non-traditional. And since I put myself through college, I thought I'm taking as many classes as I can. I took all these different classes in human development, human behavior, human potential, and just loved it. And hired a life coach later when I felt like I was just tired of the job that I had. And I was looking at
Yeah.
going out to LA to be an actor, had an agent. But my life coach, I told him, I said, this doesn't seem to call to me like I thought it would. I was in
Mhm.
some plays, I enjoyed it. And he said, have you ever thought about doing what I do? Life coach and trainer. And I said, never thought of that.
Yeah.
And I said, what would I need to do? He said, I believe in doing a true apprenticeship. So about 2,000 hours worth of free coaching for people, produce courses for him, keep my
Wow.
job while I did all of that. And
Wow.
that was my kind of pathway into what I'm doing. And a couple of years later, I ended up going out on my own, not knowing anyone in the industry, not knowing what I would do, just dove in. And that was 25 years ago, 26. Yeah, 26 years ago. So
2,000 hours of free coaching. How long did it take you to do that?
is it about 2.5 years? Because
Okay.
you have to consider some of it was in training, some of it was, but it was constantly on the phone, coaching, going through. My weekends were booked with trying
Mm.
to help people. And while I kept another job, I was constantly on the phone or meeting with people, producing courses, doing things like that for him. He had a
Yeah.
man-woman relationship class. The gentleman's name was John Catalina, one of the best coaches I've ever met. And
Wow.
he lives in California, but he really took me under his wing and just helped me.
That's powerful. Did you instantly know that this is something you wanted to do? Because 2,000 hours is a long time to for anybody to do anything.
Yeah, it was something when I started, I was like, this, I was helping people. And it just really naturally pulled to me. But I'd also done a lot of work with landmark education. I'd coached in that with some people as well. I don't know if you've ever heard of Landmark, but they have an amazing program called the Landmark Forum, and they have other courses. I did their work for about 6 or 7 years leading up to all of this as well.
I'm curious, what made you decide to branch out on your own and start Alignment?
I outgrew my other business. I started out with Choice Consulting. I was
Okay.
actually I started out training and coaching, and
Mm.
now I've finished a book I released it in January. It's called Build New Bridges: The Art of Restoring Impossible Relationships.
Mm,
And in that book, I walk through my journey about cleaning up all my past relationships and how I've coached people to do that. But what I found is when I started doing the work, I knew my career had found me. I
mm,
thought it was always going to be in sales, but this was something different, and I've never looked back.
yeah, that's awesome. Help us. I want to understand that first moment with the life coach. Did somebody tell you to hire a life coach? Did you just instinctively knew that you should do that? Because most people, it's not even on their radar.
Yeah. I had taken, like I said, some courses with Landmark Education,
Yeah.
and they have coaches in there, and I really resonated with it, but never thought about doing it myself. And then afterwards, after I started shifting from Landmark, I found John Catalina, who taught a man-woman relationship class, and fell in love with that material.
Mm,
And I always wanted to, it was the first time I really understood relationships. And it's so funny because when I taught it later, most women would have to drag their boyfriend or husbands to the class, but
yeah.
15, 20, about 2 hours into the class, all the guys loved it because it's the first time everything made sense.
Yeah.
And we talked about how the man woman dynamic is, we view it through such different lenses, but
Yeah.
I didn't think even at that time that I would want to. And looking at that program, when I hired a life coach, I was like, I need some help, some
Mm,
steps to get out to LA and get an agent. And everything fell into place real quickly when I did it. But
wow.
then I went to him and said, like I said, I didn't know that. I told him that I didn't really think the acting thing was for me because it really didn't make a difference. That's when he told me, I think you'd be good at what I do. And that's when I took on the whole different role and
Uh,
just jumped into it.
yeah, that's powerful. It's powerful to just dive headfirst into something where you feel like, hey, there's a spark of curiosity there. Follow that spark. So, for the listeners that know nothing about your business, or I guess very little about alignment resources, help them understand who is your ICP? Who do you love to work with? If you
Well,
even categorize them.
yeah,
Sorry, go.
I've got a program. It's called a master team program. And most people have heard of a mastermind, and people know what a master class is. They know what group coaching and individual coaching is. I
Yep.
get a group of people together that'll say, if I work with executives in this one class, they'll be
Mm,
all executives. I have people who are high potentials. They're all high potentials. So I put people who are at that level together, and
yeah.
we work on for 6 months how to have the most difficult conversations of their life. So it's a cross between a mastermind, a master class, group coaching, and individual coaching, all wrapped into one. So
Wow.
what people do is they bring their own list of relationships they'd like to clean up, improve, or complete, and we walk them through a process. And in that 6 month time frame at the end of it, it's really about the application of what they learn through the class, but it's applying it. And so my goal is at the end of 6 months, they'll know how to have these conversations the rest of their life. And it's interesting because most people think well, executives are already great communicators. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
They got there for different reasons. Many times the communication was just overlooked, but when they understand how to do what I teach, most
Mm,
people will say, you need to go have the conversation, but no one sits down and walks you through how to do it,
yeah.
how to manage your emotions in the moment, how to manage the emotions of others, how do you structure your message. All these things we put together, but we also build them to do that. We don't throw them in the deep end, go have this
Yep.
conversation. We build them up. But it's interesting, by the time they're done with the program, they can't believe how much they've grown and how they lean into conversations because they don't let them fester anymore.
Yeah. Help me understand how the program is structured. Is it over Zoom? Is it in-person workshops?
Yeah.
But then also I want to understand like why did you choose this niche of how to have difficult conversations? I find that super interesting.
Yeah. The program, what it is, it's a 6 month program. 1 hour a week on Zoom, and I usually leave extra time, but we do it in groups because we move so much faster in a group, and it'll be anywhere from 2 to 12 people, depending on the group. And we work through these different processes, and
Yeah.
there's a whole process that we do. How I started this was when I took a class called Crucial Conversations. I took the class before they even wrote the book. They had the training.
Wow.
It changed my life because I knew how to communicate. I went to the authors before they wrote the book, said, "Hey, could I be a part of your associate program?" They had people who could go out and sell the work and teach it. They allowed me to come in, kept my autonomy, my own business, but I would sell their material and teach it. As I began to teach it, I thought I want to be the type of leader that actually practices what I teach.
Mm.
I made a list of all my incomplete relationships,
Wow.
and I had a list of 36 different people, and I made a commitment to go clean up every one of those relationships.
Wow.
It took me 2.5 years to do that while I was teaching, but my teaching comes from a place now of actually doing it rather than a theory about it. And I consistently do that. So I took what I learned in understanding the class, but then applying it, and I understand how hard it is. That's the other thing. I give each week in our class, I give my participants a game. It's their homework, but I do the game with them, and I
Yeah.
still do it. Some are like, go up to someone and have a conversation about this, and have someone conversation about this. Then they come back and share how it went. You have breakdowns, you have breakthroughs, but it's amazing to watch the growth of people throughout
Yeah.
that process.
I love that. What's one Crucial Conversations is a phenomenal book, by the way. You just reminded me that I need to go reread it because it's one of those books that you have to go back to quite often.
Yeah.
What's one tip that you could give people, maybe like a beginner level tip? Let's say I'm about to enter into a difficult conversation. Let's say it's a professional setting. And I want to be able to not act from a place of anger or from a place of fear. And I want to make sure that I'm acting in a way that is conducive to the relationship. What's something that comes to mind that people can practically take away?
Key thing. I and that's one of the reasons I wrote my book. It is an application of Crucial Conversations. I was master certified in Crucial Conversations, accountability, and
It's called,
influence. I'm
sorry,
sorry.
it's called Build New Bridges.
Build New Bridges, the art of restoring impossible relationships.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I even give them credit in the book. This book is about the application of that. And that's the key. Knowing how to do it's one thing, applying it is completely different. And so I
Yeah.
walked through my struggles and the things I still struggle with today. And so the one key thing I would tell people is when you approach a conversation, approach it with your best motives.
Mm,
And your best motive needs to include two things: how to solve the problem and how to improve your relationship with the person. We typically walk in with just a focus on the problem. We need to think of both the problem and the person because it's
yeah.
going to take both of you. So it's getting back to your best motive. If you ever get into trouble, stop talking about the problem you think at hand and talk about your motive. Why did we start talking in the first place? Ammar, it was to solve
Yeah.
this problem with you and to make sure our working relationship is better at the end of it.
Yeah.
And if I haven't done that, that's on me. I need to bring it back there. And I tell people in the middle of the conversation, you can stop and go, you know what? This isn't going the way I wanted. The reason I brought this up was to this, and just bring back your best motive.
I love that. Sorry, I was just taking notes. That's why I was
Yeah,
looking down.
it's all right.
I love that a lot. So it's one of the things that stuck with me from the book is that whenever I enter into any sort of high stakes, emotion runs high, and what was the third one?
Opposing opinions.
Opposing opinions. It's what do I want for me? What do I want for the other person? What do I want for the relationship?
Right.
And whenever I approach it like that, or whenever my friends tell me about arguments they've had, I'm like, is that really what you want for that for your relationship with your parent or with your child or whatever? It's powerful. Or For, I guess, let's switch over a little bit to the back end of the business model. For the executives, and you said high potentials. What does that mean?
That's someone who's trying to move up. Sometimes organizations will say, these are our key players. They'll eventually move up to upper management, maybe executive level. I also work with, if I have executives, I only put executives with other executives.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of people also who are right under the executive team and trying to get the skills to become an executive. And so I work with all of those, but it's interesting because everyone needs what I get to teach. It's like I'm handing out ice water in the desert. Everyone wants what it is, but people are scared of it at first. But when they
Mm,
start to see the process that we go through, it's amazing to see people just really take to it.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that so much because it is very powerful, the stuff that you're talking about. For you, when you're looking to fill up these group sessions, these cohorts, how do you actually generate leads? And are you going to the individuals or are you going to the organizations and then they're bringing their executive teams into it? How does that work?
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah.
Sometimes I had one CEO come in and work with me. And as soon as he was done, he put all of his executives through. Afterwards together. We did
Yeah.
a program just for them. The company funded that. I have other executives that are maybe small businesses. Maybe they have their own budget that they can actually hire a coach throughout, but they'll come to me and go that route. But almost everything we've done has really been referral based because what we
Mm,
found for so far, we haven't unlocked the key on mass marketing. LinkedIn doesn't seem to work for us, things like that, because it's pretty detailed. And getting the people out there, what I found is the basic referral really goes a long way, but doing it correctly. Referrals can be done poorly, and I made my mistakes with that as well.
mm. What are some tips and tricks you have for people to avoid those mistakes?
Find there's a couple of people I would suggest. There's a guy named Josh Tapp and another one named Devin Sizemore are in the area of helping people expand their networking referral. I found it's one of the best. There's another guy named Steve Gordon who wrote a book called Unstoppable Referrals. All of those are really nice ways to actually make sure you don't hurt yourself and trying to find so many people. I get emails every day. Oh, we can get you 10 new people, 10 new people. I've been burned so many times on those. I just encourage you, make sure you have some type level of relationship. I won't reach out and do any more referrals unless they give a money back guarantee. I give a money back guarantee on my classes. And if your program doesn't work, you should give me my money back. So that's the way I look at it is like I ask people to do what I do. And so that weeds out a lot of people as well because it's okay, if you don't do this, I want my money back because you guarantee this. And I've had several times where they didn't even come close to what they promised.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is always frustrating when they promise the world and they don't even land in the stars
No,
or
no,
nothing like that.
they don't. And it's not only the money that we put into it, it's the time. And that's just it. You can't get it back. It's wasted. When you look at it, a whole campaign can last 3 or 6 months, and you're looking back going, "That's a wasted 3 to 6 months. Time is
Yeah,
so valuable."
100%. So you've been mainly referral based, and you mentioned you haven't unlocked mass marketing and LinkedIn hasn't really been working. Do you have any hypotheses as to why that is?
Ask any of the marketing people that they wanted to go that route. They haven't been able to get us any. They
Mm,
said they don't understand why, and I've had that explanation for different groups. So
wow. And these
I
are like lead generation agencies where they take care of the leads for you. Okay, got it.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
they come back with nothing, and it's disheartening, but
Yeah,
it's just a wall. But we're lucky enough. I've had my own referral base, but we're expanding that referral base as we do it. We're on a lot of different podcasts now. I have my own podcast, but
yeah,
and a lot of people come on that. So it's finding those. But the biggest thing I think of finding someone, that's another thing we ran into. Most people think we want the problem people. I don't want
Mm,
the problem people. I want the successful people because those are the ones that are going to are going to do the work.
yeah,
Typically, I find the people who are the problem people, they haven't been coachable in the first place.
yeah,
So we like to play with people who are successful. I've got a group right now, a group of 8. They're all stars, and it's fun to go in and work with them, and they're challenging each other, and they're top of industry around the country, and it's just fun to see them get together, and they can't wait for that hour. Every one of them is very busy executives. They
yeah.
all make that 1 hour a week, and without missing it, they're
Crazy.
excited to come to it. That's what's so fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you can have the most impact on them because they're actually going to follow through. They're actually going to do the work.
Oh
They're
yeah.
successful. So they also, the trickle effect, if they're an executive, the people that are direct reports to them, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I had one gentleman. He was head of a industrial plant, and the head of HR and the executive, the CEO who put him in, actually was concerned. And at the end of 6 months, I had a meeting with the person who came in, the head of the plant, and the head of HR and the CEO. I said, "What do y'all think? How's he done?"
Yeah.
And the CEO had nothing but great things to say. And then the HR director stopped. I didn't know what she was going to say. And she said, "I had no idea change could come that quick." She said,
Wow.
the entire plant, she said, has changed the entire culture in 6 months. And she said, "You didn't work with anyone in there except the leader." But that's real leadership. He
Yeah.
showed up as a leader. He was willing to change some of the things he was doing. He went and had the conversation. Everything in the plant changed because of the conversations he had and the relationships he built during that time together.
Wow. I love that so much. And it makes perfect sense because as you were saying that story, I was thinking back to the times where I've had amazing leaders in my life, where I was starting off in sales, and they said one little comment that I thought about for months that kept me going, that kept me driving, instilling that belief of, hey, we all believe in you, but you need to do XYZ. I still remember that to this day. And that's the power of leadership.
It
I
is.
love that so much.
I got a question for you, Ammar. You had read the book, Crucial Conversations. You brought the questions out that are so perfect. I'd love for you to share with the people one situation where that helped you, because it's the application of that
Yeah.
work. I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Let me think about that. That's a great question. I know it's helped me a lot with my relationship with my dad. That is a big thing because we are very similar personalities. We can both be very hard-headed sometimes, very opinionated sometimes. And when we're on two sides of something, it can be intense. And this is interesting. I'm curious your perspective on this. I've been doing a lot of research in quantum physics and the idea of the energy that we have, the energy that we bring to certain situations, the power that can have. So, literally just as simple as I would go to my dad's house and I'd be like, okay, what do I want for myself? What do I want for him? And then the third thing, which is the most powerful, what do I want for the relationship afterwards? I want us to be able to laugh afterwards. I want us to be able to talk on the phone freely with no intensity, with no animosity towards certain things. And I want us to just have a great relationship. And from there, I noticed that I would personally react differently. I would react from a place of love. He would like sometimes he would still yell or whatever. And I would be, I get it. I'm sorry. I apologize. But what can we do to move past this? Right? Instead of meeting that energy with the same energy. Right. And then the more research that I do on like metaphysics and quantum mechanics and all these different things as alongside communication, I realize that I don't know what you think about this, but my expectation of how a person will react tends to lead to them reacting like that. But
Oh
if I
yeah.
expect them to act in a positive manner, it tends to lead to them acting in a positive manner. And I'm like, when I realized this and when I was learning this, it blew my mind a little bit. Like my expectation of the world determine how the world presents itself to me. So that's one thing that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
That's a beautiful example. Yeah. And if you get a chance, I'll send you one of my books. The first chapter is about my relationship with my father. And
Wow.
the whole first chapter is about the most difficult conversation I've ever had. And it doesn't typically end the way you think it will. It's the
Yeah.
beginning of a book, but I owe people the honesty of how these things can show up. People understand the reality of it. And Ammar, you're right. When you approach someone, you get back what you give out.
Mm,
That's the energy exchange that happens in all of our lives. But what we tend to do when we have a lower consciousness, we have a lower vibration. And so
yeah.
we're in reaction to everything. And we create the equal and opposite reaction of what we want. It's physics. And so all of that, we're bouncing around with each other, giving our power away to others who never asked for it, don't know how to use our power when it was meant to stay in our possession. But we
Mm,
give it away the moment we get upset with someone, we give them all our power.
yeah.
And we do it unconsciously. But what you're talking about there, Ammar, I really, the whole thing, what is it I really want? You're also entering with an open heart.
Yes.
As an open heart, that's a different energy. But and if you also, it doesn't mean you approve of everything the other person says. You can completely disagree with someone and still enter with an open heart. That allows you to show up as your best,
Yeah.
not your worst. And that's most of the problems in these conversations. We show up and we don't do a good job. And then we walk away and we blame the other person because we haven't learned to look at ourselves and manage ourselves first. So
Mm,
it's easy to blame other people. We become a victim of our own conversations and we
yeah.
become the biggest barrier in them. But if we take responsibility, there's a quote I put in all of my programs: everything in my life I create, promote, or allow.
Wow.
That's total responsibility. I can change this. I can't change you. But if I change how I do things, you may have to change how you engage with me. That's the
Yes.
power.
I love that so much. And you mentioned vibrations, you mentioned energy, and I love the levels of energy. And by Frederick Dotson, that book is a great book, but also Power versus Force by Dr.
Mhm.
David R. Hawkins, The Map of Consciousness. And the idea, this is like a physics rule, like attracts like. So similar vibrations attract similar vibrations. That's why I love the Dr. Joe Dispenza quote is gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. So if I want to attract more things in my life to be grateful for, I first must be grateful for the things that I already have. And on the surface, this doesn't sound like we're talking about communication when we talk about stuff like this. Because it doesn't really seem that way, but it has a huge implication on the way that you communicate. And there's one thing that I wasn't actually going to do this. I didn't even think about doing this, but I'm going to read this out real quick.
Yeah.
I was listening to a book called It's Never Crowded Along the Extra Mile by Dr. Wayne Dyer. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've ever heard of it.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
love Wayne Dyer.
I love
Attention,
Wayne.
everything. Yeah.
So this is in the opening of the book. The book is basically 10 secrets to inner success or inner peace and success. So success and inner peace, something like that. And he says these are some of the symptoms of inner peace. And as we were talking, it made me think of this. There's 10 of them. I'm going to read them out quickly. Tendency to think and act spontaneously rather than on fears based on past experiences. Unmistakable ability to enjoy each moment. Loss of interest in judging other people. Loss of interest in interpreting the actions of others. That one was a tough one for me. Same with the judging other people. And it's still just a process of evolution, right? But loss of interest in conflict. Loss of interest in worrying. Frequent and overwhelming episodes of appreciation, contended feelings of connectedness with others and nature. frequent attacks of smiling, and an increased susceptibility to the love extended by others, as well as the uncontrollable urge to extend it. And I think going back to the point that you were making, how you show up will change the way that I interact with you. If we can take some of these principles and embody them in our lives, then our relationships, I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like will go a lot smoother and a
Yeah.
lot more peaceful.
My friend John Catalina that coached me, well, he used to say, Greg, get yours in the giving.
Mm,
You want kindness, give it. You want
mm,
love, give it. You want money, give it.
ooh,
Stop chasing it, allow it to come back to you.
yeah,
And that's why generosity, do you have real generosity, or are you trying to get something back with it? What are you doing? Are you just putting it out there? But I find when we do that, you were talking about, this doesn't seem like communication. It is, in the fact that communication comes from the word common union,
mm,
communion,
I did
common
not know that.
union, and it's communication. And that's just it. We have a commonality. We're all human beings. We can start to
Yeah,
see the humanity in each other. But the moment we label someone, I don't care if you say Democrat or Republican, you give yourself license to treat a human being like a thing, and
yeah,
you diminish who they are in the world
yeah,
and in your mind. But what happens if I humanize you? What if I say, you know what, you're cut from the same cloth, you're my brother, I want the world to work for you as well.
I love that.
Approaching it from that doesn't mean all your problems go away. Your
No.
problems are there to design growth and
Mm,
breakthroughs. You
yeah,
don't get to have a breakthrough until there's conflict. Most
yeah,
people spend their time avoiding conflict. If you do, you're avoiding your breakthrough.
yeah,
You don't get to have one. That's why the word breakthrough is there. You got to break through something. You break through that conflict. If you start looking at conflict that way, what's my breakthrough behind this? Doesn't mean the meeting's going to be fun or the mediation's going to be what you want it to be.
yeah.
It does mean on the backside there's going to be healing and growth.
I love that. That's so powerful. Now, when you think about the future, when you think about your vision from a business perspective, let's say over the next 12 months, what are your top priorities? What are you looking to accomplish?
Yeah, my top priorities are two, is real simple. Two clients a month, two new clients a month, just for me. And as we do that, the next year, I want to do more and more. And our goal is to fill these up with other coaches that I have engaged with me that I
Awesome.
know have the ability to do this, because not everyone can do what we're doing. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of self work. People, this didn't just come to me. I worked at it through years, and it takes developmental learning, understanding things like Joe Dispenza's work. When you're talking about that, great work out there. I've got one of my
Yes.
friends works with that, has worked with them before.
Awesome.
And so we have a lot of different trainers and coaches that can do these things. But right now, for me, it's just two new clients a month, and to develop other people with me. I've got a gentleman named Noah Boughton. He's someone I'm mentoring.
Cool.
And Noah is amazing for his age. And he's learning so much the last year with me. And he's becoming quite the coach and quite the speaker himself. So it's a lot of, it's real satisfying to bring other people along on the journey
Mm.
to help them help others. And that's my biggest thing, is I just want to help others.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is the biggest challenge you're facing as the business owner?
Just getting in front of the people who are interested. It's interesting because what I've got, everyone really wants, but
Yeah,
it's getting people who are really interested. Most people think about this and they're like, I don't know that I'd want to do that. There's a little fear there. But when they sit down and talk with me, it's just the close ratio would be in the 90% range, because if they come to me and they're interested, I've got what there's really nothing that they're risking except the 1 hour a week
Yeah.
time frame because the money is going to be reimbursed if they didn't get it, but that's never happened.
Yeah.
So it's just getting the right people in front. And it's amazing in a world of 8 billion people that it's so tough to get people. But you tell people that, hey, there's a sporting event that's going to cost you that, I'm going to go, which is great. I'm not against any of that. But it's amazing what we'll spend our money on and then how we complain about other parts of our lives.
Yeah.
It's just like I would forego a sporting event to get my life in order so I could enjoy those things even more later.
100%. People don't understand the consequences of inaction.
Absolutely.
And that's one of, sorry, go for it.
No, please go.
I was just gonna say that's one of the most powerful things that I've learned in sales is engineering the conversation in a way where I can help them understand what is the cost of inaction. What happens if nothing changes? What happens if you just keep going down the same path? Really envision that. What is 2 years down the line, 5 years, 10 years down the line? And then you raise the action threshold. And it's okay, it's the cost of me doing nothing is greater than the investment involved in whatever this thing is.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because we sit down, I can show a business owner, hey, this is going to increase your bottom line this much, or I can show you what has happened with other organizations. But the biggest thing are the family relationships that have been changed. For
Yeah.
instance, in the last chapter of my book, I talk about one person, she wanted to go clean up a relationship with her ex-mother-in-law. And the last time she'd seen her had been 2.5 years previous, and they were cussing each other out. And she told her mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law, you'll never see your grandkids again. And she came to me, she said, Greg, she goes, I'm ashamed that I did that. I haven't
Yeah.
talked to her for 2.5 years. I don't know how to approach this. And in the book, you can read about how, but it turns out it was amazing because they rekindled that relationship, and those kids have been able to be with their grandmother every holiday since. Now
That's amazing.
that is amazing. Most
That's
people,
gotta feel good.
that's those are the, and I have a buffet of stories like this with people who go back. That's why I called it the art of restoring impossible relationships. Every one of them in there, people said, there's no way this will never get cleaned up.
Yeah.
And I can't guarantee that because the other person has to be involved, but I can guarantee we help people to show up as their best
Yeah.
during that time.
I feel like you were meant to be on the pod today because yesterday I had this thought where I'm not super close with my distant relatives, like my cousins, my grandparents, that type of stuff. And that's because they live in a different country, but I don't actively try to reach out to them. We live in an online world. I easily could. Now, it's not that the relationships ended poorly. It's just that I'm like, it's been so long, and I'm like, how do I approach something like that's? I was literally thinking about this over the weekend, and then I just keep pushing it out. I'm like, I'll do it in the future. I'll do it this year for sure. Just I don't know when. But no, you're really making me realize that I should do
Yeah.
it.
And the best way to do is say, hey, you've been on my mind. I say, you know this.
Mm,
I've never picked up the phone. Just own it. Not
yeah.
no make wrong. Never picked up the phone and wanted to change that. Are you interested?
Mm.
Then you get to find out if they're even interested. They might say, nah, but
Leave me
remember,
alone.
that means nothing about you.
Yeah.
That's the other thing you have to really let go of, our attachment about what other people, our stories about what other people are saying. They're just saying what they're saying. That's their experience. You're never rejected. You're always protected. I love that line. You're always
Mhm.
protected from the things. So you're not rejected. Someone has a different view, but you can't change any of that. But what I will say, if you show up your best, it's interesting how people will shift how they do things as well.
I like that so much. What's what can somebody do? Let's say somebody's listening to this and they're like, you know what? I want to be doing what Greg is doing. And you mentioned you have a mentee that you're mentoring. How does somebody get into this?
Kind of like I did. Someone took interest in me, John Catalina. He took interest in me. I thought I need to pay that forward. I would tell people to take classes like Joe Dispenza, Landmark Education, Crucial Conversations. Find these different courses, get your feet wet, look at it, do the work. That's just it. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I want to be a coach. I want to do this." And they don't really read the book or two, and they took an online class over a short amount of time, but they haven't really dug in and done the work themselves. I think if you want to be a master at what you're doing, you have to do the practice yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be a practitioner. And I'm constantly working on improving myself. Lifelong learner, become that. Go to Tony Robbins, get your butt in some course of people who do this for a living, reach out to them, hire a coach.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any one way. There's many different ways, but find your own, get interested, reach out to me. If I'm not the one, I'll point you in the direction of people I know. I might not, there's a lot of courses I've never even heard of. I'm sure they're amazing.
Yeah.
So look for people you trust, people who have had breakthroughs around that. Ask coaches where they got their training, how long they did that kind of work, because you're going to find some that they might even be really good coaches. I don't know, but I think it's important that they have some level of understanding how to do what they're asking you to do.
Yeah. I love that. What's one tool or resource that's been a game changer for you in business?
In business, I'd say the book Crucial Conversations for me
Yeah.
was paramount because it taught me how to have the difficult conversations. It didn't, it taught me how, then I had to apply it. I would say the courses like Landmark, like I was talking about, and I'd say there's a couple of books that I would really recommend as kind of foundational. One would be the book Awareness by Anthony DeMello. Another one would be The Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. And then a third one, look at this.
This is an amazing
This
book.
is sitting on my desk right now.
Yeah,
Can you
all the
believe
time.
that?
That's
That's
awesome.
amazing. So, yeah, Awareness is his book. Also, for business, the 15 commitments of conscious leadership. It's interesting. I ran into that book last year
Mm.
and I was just blown away. I thought,
Yeah.
I don't need to write a book about what I do. This covers everything I've been teaching the last 20 years. So they have a program that you can just get materials from them. They're a great book, great insights, great programs. Get yourself plugged into that. Another one, Power of Intention, Wayne Dyer. I
Yeah.
love Wayne Dyer. I listen to him. I love his voice another
Yeah.
one, Michael Singer. He did this first book was The Untethered Soul. Then he wrote his memoir. It's called The Surrender Experiment. And that's the one I listened to that. I think you should listen to it. It has him reading it. And then his final book was Living It Untethered. Another one that's fun, if you want to, is Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights.
I love
If you
that one.
haven't read it, I encourage you, get the Audible, listen to him, because Matthew McConaughey does his own, it's like having him at dinner.
Yeah.
And I've listened to it 3 times just because I think it's his stories are so good. He tells them so well.
Yeah.
But if you look, his life is a level of transformation and communication and putting it out there and stepping into the unknown and taking risk and chances and being true to himself.
Yeah. I love that. I actually have the Green Lights Journal.
Do
And
you? That's great.
yeah, that one's very cool. It's got some cool prompts in there. It's just set up in an artsy way.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna check out Michael Singer. I already love Anthony DeMello. The
Yeah.
Way to Love is a fantastic book, and it's compact.
Yeah. But
Go.
awareness, here's the other thing. I'd encourage you to listen to Awareness. That's another thing. I read it every 6 months for 6 years. And every time I picked it up, I was on such a trajectory of growth at that time. Every 6 months, it seemed like a different book to me. But
Wow.
the book was written after he passed away. He died in 1986, I think. But they wrote the book from his lectures. So it reads a little differently. But if you listen to it, they've actually got him in the lectures. And
Wow.
it's really funny. And it is timeless. It was in 1986 when he passed away. And you listen to it, his insights are actually just spot on for today.
Love that. That's awesome. I'll literally do that right after we hop off.
Good, good.
What's the best way for, actually, before I ask you this, I was going to ask what's the best way for people to reach you. If you could go back in time almost 5 years ago to when you first started Alignment Resources and give yourself a piece of advice you wish you knew at that time, what would that be?
For me, with this, it would be start out my marketing efforts with a good referral base connection. If you don't know how to do it, look up some of the people like I was telling you, Josh Tapp, Devin Sizemore, Steve Gordon. Find out how they're doing it. To me, that's the way business will probably be moving forward in many ways of marketing going forward. And it would have just saved us a lot of time for the people we're looking for. Now, for other groups, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those things work. Just for mine, it wasn't the way to go.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
yeah, that's what you got to remember. What may work for one group may not work for another. That's
Yeah,
what's so difficult about it sometimes.
100%. What's the best way for people to reach you?
Yeah, the best way is just go to our website. It's alignment-resources.com. Don't forget the dash between the two, alignment-resources.com. You can find a link to our book on that. You can set up an appointment to talk about our master teams. And that's another thing, you'll never be sold anything. You got to really want to be a part of it, and not everyone gets in. So it's one of those things that got to be honest with people. We put together those teams that are very strong, and but it will be a life changer for you. I can promise you that. I've heard it over. And we love the work we do. We also have other trainers that train other things. Everything's there on our website, alignment-resources.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. Greg, wow, thank you so much. This was a very enjoyable conversation. I know I walked away with a bunch of takeaways. The listeners definitely did as well. So I just want to thank you for coming on, sharing your insights and your journey with us today. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're looking to scale your business and enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.